Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is a new
everybody.
podcast.
It might have been like demon possessed. It was a fairly large, mutated-looking chicken.
We were born in the north, but we grew up in the south.
We learned all of our words from Pennsylvania.
And people are like, that's a toboggan. That little toboggan
Not
there.
a toboggan. A toboggan is a sled. Okay.
0.3 inches, baby.
Dude, I can't take it. Thank you so much for joining us for this exciting, very awesome episode of the Wiseworks podcast.
We've been waiting for it. 100 episodes. We've been waiting for this.
Yeah, we've been waiting for it, man. I mean, we've been working hard for it. This past semester, we really ramped it up to do 3 podcasts a week.
Yep.
And so here we are at 100 episodes.
Yep.
How do you feel?
I'm ready to go another 5,000.
5,000. As we've already said on the Midnight Special, if we don't have 1,000 subscribers by the time we hit 5,000,
Yeah.
then we're quitting.
We are. Yeah.
5,000. We'll be 65 by the time we hit that.
Yeah. Do you want, I guess we'll explain where we are.
Yeah.
And why we're here.
So we have a 3-camera setup.
We do.
We're using a GoPro for the wide shot, but so explain where we are.
We are at the camp we grew up at. We came here 2 times a year for up until 2012.
Yeah. And we've talked about this camp quite a few times on the Midnight Special.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about it a few times on the regular podcast, the video as well.
Yes. It is called Maranatha.
Maranatha Youth Ranch.
Yeah, this
Maranatha
is
camp.
where we met the Goforths, and we kind of became really good friends with them.
Yeah. Actually, right over here is where we, me and you ran down from this big rock. I don't know if the wide shot can see it behind you, but there's a big rock right next to this creek over here. And me and you ran down, and the Goforths came from over there, and they ran right up to this little spot right here, and that's where we kind of like embraced and said, we're best friends, even though we didn't remember each other that well. It's like we intuitively knew that we were really good friends. By the way, we're outside, so you're going to hear nature sounds. We're at camp, so
We are.
just forgive us for that, but also enjoy it maybe. It's a special one. We said we were doing something special.
That is true. Actually, later on in the podcast, we're going to have Wyatt on. We're going to call him in. But
The reception's not great here, so we're going to try to give him a phone call, and if all goes well, then we should get a quick word from him to get his thoughts on 100 episodes and whatnot.
yeah, but before we do that, I guess we can go back to, we have some B-roll, and we also went somewhere else today. We're not recording the podcast there because of technical difficulties and stuff like that, but we did get some B-roll footage.
Yeah,
of
we
it.
went up, it's about 2 hours north of here.
Yeah.
In a small town called Sheffield. That's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. We wanted to show you guys a little bit of B-roll here. Some of the spots from the town that we visited earlier today that we got from the town that we were born in and grew up in up until like the age of, 8 and 10.
Yeah. And in that, we have a couple episodes where we talk about Sheffield. Like we had one where we talked about the graveyard we would play in and the creek and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what we said, I think it's called our bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah.
Remember that
Yeah.
episode? That was closer to season 2 or 1.
Yeah.
But we talked about that and being in the graveyard, living right next to the graveyard, and actually the bridge. And I actually got footage of that bridge, so we can show that. You guys are actually probably seeing it now.
This isn't the right bridge, though.
What do you mean?
This isn't the same bridge that you're talking about. When we talked about the bridge to Terabithia, we were talking about that bridge down by the creek. The big one, the wiry one, the old one.
Oh, no, I think we were talking about the other bridge.
Well, either way, we got
some
some shots of a memorable bridge.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot that is there that I remember from being a kid. Actually, something I got footage of was a time capsule.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be opened in, I think,
2028?
28, yeah.
Wow. Did it say when it was put in or no?
It does. I can't recall off the top of my head.
You think the B-roll says it?
It does say it because I got
okay.
I got
read it on the B-roll. We'll insert it here
Yeah.
if Joshua got some shots of it.
I did. So I guess that's going to be interesting to open up.
yeah.
I think it's
like the whole
years,
town,
so
right? Is it the town? Is it like the little area of Barnes or is it Sheffield? Did it say?
Barnes. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's Barnes.
So Barnes is just a small country area sort of next to the town of Sheffield, but it's like a mile down the road.
It is.
But we went and got some B-roll, and actually we started off, we could tell a little story that happened earlier today.
Yeah.
So we started off, I've been talking to some family members that still live in the area about where this place called Icy Caves is that we've talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we were wanting to go down there, and pretty much what Icy Caves is, it's not so much like caves, but it's like these canyons of big cracks in the ground and big like rock walls that's in the middle of the forest. And we were like, maybe we could do the podcast there, for the 100th episode.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about that earlier today. We did land on doing it here. Kind of decided today, but
yeah.
But pretty much what we did is we got there. This family member sent me a pin for the location of where in the forest it was because I didn't remember where it was. So we drove through the town, looked at a few things, and went straight there. Well, when we got there, it was just like a ditch on the side of the road, so we just had to kind of pull off to the side of the road.
There wasn't much parking.
There wasn't much room to park the car. But I was like, Joshua, wait here. I'm just gonna go see if I could find this back in the woods, because if it's back there, we'll move forward and go take a look at it. And I went back there, and I was like, I came back after I saw something that I thought was it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few 100 yards into the woods, and I came back and I was like, okay, first you have to understand, this is not like the woods of the Carolinas or some people that might be listening to this from that location. The large majority of our audience are from the South. This is not like South woods, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is like forest. I mean, crazy trees, like crazy sounds, thick, dense woods.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, it's actually like a national forest area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not like a park, but just like a dense forest here in Pennsylvania. And so we went in, and I was getting a little scared because I've heard stories of like black bears live up there, cougars, mountain lions live in there, and I'm like, this is a little scary to just be out in the woods by myself. What if one pounces on me? We didn't bring a gun or a knife, but what did we bring?
A sword. We did have a sword.
Big old swords.
Yeah.
So we brought a sword out there for protection to like whack or stab if we needed to. But I went and got Joshua, and I said, hey, I think I found the spot of Icy Caves. So let's go down there. And then pick it up from there.
Well, yeah, we explored. You can see B-roll that we shot from down there. I got a little bit of photos while we were down there, and you can see those while we were down there.
Don't give me too much work for this podcast.
No, I'm going to explain what happened after that. Well, but we decided not to film there. Also because it's kind of, someone owns that land now.
Yeah, we found out after we were there, it's technically private property.
Yeah.
There wasn't signs there, but there was like signs over off to the side of it.
Yeah.
And so we were like, I feel like this is probably owned by someone. And so Joshua and I were going back and forth. Should we film something here or should we not? And I was kind of like, I don't think we should. And then you just kind of agreed.
Yeah, we just decided because we were already knowing that we were going to come here. So
so we decided
we just decided
do it here.
After getting some B-roll shots to put in the podcast that you can see, we kind of went back to our car to kind of just explore the town a little bit more and get some footage of the town. And
now,
actually,
let's talk about the town. Well, actually, let's finish the story.
Yeah. And actually, when we were coming up, we see someone that was at our car.
Yeah.
Because we kind of came up on the road.
And this is back in the woods. Like this is a 1-lane road, not a 2-lane with the yellow line. It's 1-lane road.
Yeah,
way up into the hills of this no-person town, and even farther out into up on this hill is just like forest and a few houses. And so we were like, "Crap, man! Someone's found our car. They're getting suspicious."
Yeah,
and
And he was like looking at our car, and then he started walking down in the woods because he knew
right where
probably
we
went
had
down there.
entered, because we came out of the woods farther down.
But he went in the woods looking for us, and we kind of just ran up to our car, threw our stuff in the car.
We were
took
like,
off.
I mean, we did do that, but I was like, Joshua, look, there's a dude going right in the woods. He probably is looking for us because of our car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, let's just go up to the car. We waited for him to get into the woods, and we started walking up the road, and we were just keeping an eye to see if he would pop out of the woods.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, just throw this stuff in the back of the car.
He never came back out of the woods before we left.
We're going to hop in, and we're just going to drive away because we already got some B-roll that we showed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just took off.
We did.
And we didn't get caught. So that was good. We probably were trespassing, which is not good to do. But we also were a little bit ignorant to it, and we didn't want to get caught after we had done it. Once we realized we probably for sure were trespassing. So we just snuck away. Yeah. Don't judge us too hard. Everyone's done that. Come on.
But what did you want to talk about the town itself? Because we were there.
Yeah.
We were there for an hour.
Yeah. So we got to see the town. Honestly, I haven't been back. I've been to this camp quite a few times over the past few years. I think up until today, the last time I was here was probably 2017. Mm-hmm. So it's been a few years. But it it's being kept up really well, and it looks nice, and it's so relaxing here.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is.
But I remember I haven't been to the town we grew up in of Sheffield since 2005. So a solid 15 years haven't been up there. So this is the first time seeing the house and barns that we grew up in, the house in Sheffield that we lived in for a time, our grandma's house that she lived in before she moved to South Carolina with our family. Just the town in general, the playground we used to play on, this big log that we can show you that's like at the playground that apparently was a giant tree that was cut down and years ago, and they put it in like this park.
Yeah, which that in itself is a story. Why did they do that? I'm curious.
I don't know. It was a really long time ago. You can tell it's really old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been there our entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire life.
Curious how old it is. It probably has a mural or some sort of plaque on it. Yeah. We just didn't go up and read
I remember
it.
but people just climbed on it. I remember when we went up to the playground, we would play on the playground a little bit, and then we would go to the log and just walk back and forth. Yeah. And when we'd meet each other, we'd give each other a little shove to see who could stay on the log without
That's
falling
the best
off.
game ever.
Yeah. You just like tumble into the gravel and be like, hey, Joseph pushed me off.
Yeah. But then we came here, and we got a lot of stories from this place.
Yeah.
We could talk about this place for hours, which
we have, and we will.
Yeah.
But there was a topic you wrote down that you wanted to talk about some today.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
do you want to get into any stories before we get into the topic? Is there any stories we haven't told that might be coming to your mind that
I mean, I always have stories, especially being back here. This is very nostalgic to me and you, both of us. So I could talk about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But we can save that. Maybe when Wyatt comes on, we can talk about some stories. But I guess we can talk about kind of our thoughts. Yes, we left when we were like, I was 8, you were 10.
Yeah.
From Sheffield, from living there, Barnes. But just our thoughts on how it maybe that led us on a path to kind of getting into filmmaking in a way.
Yeah.
Did it spark any creativity?
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of did. I mean, we talked about our bridge to Terabithia that was there.
Yeah.
And just playing down
in the woods
by the cemetery.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we probably weren't being very respectful of the stones and things. I mean, multiple times we would get yelled at all the time.
Yeah. Of people being like, why are you kids playing in a cemetery?
Yeah.
We have our bikes, and there was like this track that went in a circle. Was that still there?
Yeah.
So we would just get on that track and just whoosh, fly around in this little cemetery, and we would just go like crazy, just shooting around the stones on this little track that was built for a car to go around the cemetery.
I remember there was stumps that were like left from when trees got cut down or fell down, and we would do jumps off the stones. I mean, not the stones, the stumps.
Yeah,
that were in there too. So much that like our handlebars would bend because we did so many jumps
Yeah.
from it. That's fun.
Yeah. I honestly, when I think about just Sheffield, it was a lot smaller, you know?
Yeah.
And this is a common thing. You always hear when you go back to a place or you see something that you had a lot of memories growing up, everything just seems smaller.
Mhm.
I think it's because over time your memories expands the space. And between that mixed with you're just a little person
Yeah.
when you were there last.
Yeah, well, we've talked about with Wyatt, I remember with this camp, because he lived here at one point being the caretaker with their family,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the magic of when you're a kid. You have
Yeah.
that magic that's like, when you come, it's so fun. It's such like a special place for you,
Yeah.
especially this, because it's camp. You come here for a week at a time. You're not here for like the whole year
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Plus, you're a kid, so you're just having fun for a week.
Yeah.
So that was always fun coming here. And it's that same way going back to somewhere that you haven't been to since you were a kid.
Mhm.
It kind of loses the magic a little bit. Not saying that Barnes has magic, but we just remember it different because we were kids.
Yeah. I mean, it does have, maybe not anymore. I mean, after seeing it today,
Yeah.
there was honestly, if anyone else who didn't grow up there
Mhm.
saw it, it's kind of just an old town,
Yeah.
an old small town. And there's a lot of houses that just aren't lived in anymore. And so but there's a level of magic for us, you know?
There is.
And there's also places that had magic that have been, you know, cut down and demolished and stuff that we saw down by the creek area behind where our house was. They had built another house down there.
Something else I kind of wanted to bring up with this was what gave us the creativity, that sparked creativity. Like, what entertainment still gives us that creativity?
Mhm.
Thinking back, I know some people might know of this. I remember when we were kids, every Saturday morning we would listen to our audio. I don't know how you describe them, audio stories, kind of
Mhm.
like a podcast
Yeah.
or just a audiobook that was on the radio from
Like Adventures in Odyssey.
Adventures in Odyssey. Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah.
From like 7 a.m. every Saturday to 10.
Mhm.
I remember all morning we would just listen to these adventure stories
Yeah. On the radio.
on the radio when we were living in Barnes. We would do that every Saturday. I remember we would eat the Panda Paws, just like peanut butter cereal.
Panda Paws is an ice cream.
Not Panda Paws. What is it? Orangutangos. Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
there's an orangutangos.
Peanut butter, like, the
Cereals.
chocolate.
Yeah.
Probably close to. I haven't had these, but like the Reese cereal that they have, probably similar to that.
Honestly, I haven't seen these anywhere else in the
Mm-mm.
world.
They probably don't have them anymore, to be
Yeah.
honest.
But I see what you mean there. There was a level of creativity that was sparked even there. But I will say this, even just, although it's weird because I wouldn't necessarily call where we grew up country, because it was kind of like a condensed small area that has a lot of housing, like just houses in it, just kind of houses.
Yeah,
where people
but it
live.
wasn't like a subdivision or like a neighborhood either.
Yeah, it's not a neighborhood. It honestly is just the wilderness. It's honestly just like the forest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of country, but it's not like farmland country. It's like just forest.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it really took me by surprise again going up there. Like, hills are so much steeper than I remember.
Yeah, definitely.
I
It's
didn't
not
realize
flat.
how many big rolling hills are there, you know?
Like mountains and
Yeah, like not huge mountains, but like decent sized hills, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you go
hills
up
that are
and then
flirting
back
with
down.
mountains, and
Yeah.
they're just all over the place. I mean, it's just up and down territory, and I didn't realize how much it was there until we went back today.
Yeah. Something that we went back to our old house. We didn't get to look inside, but we just saw the outside of it. And we had a barn that I think we put that barn up.
I don't remember if I don't think we put it up. I think we turned it into a chicken coop.
Okay,
or
well,
something.
there was a barn that we
our
had
dad
like
added
a chicken
onto it.
coop and we had turkeys at one point.
Mm-hmm.
That was still there.
Yeah,
I'm curious how clean it is. Probably dirty.
it's probably dirty. You remember spray painting the walls inside that?
No.
Our dad
No.
had spray paint, and I would go inside there, and I would just spray paint the walls and pictures and lines and stuff. I wasn't any good, but But what I was saying was just like the creativity that was grown in us in that town was because like we did have so much nature around us. We had so much
probably
ability. Like we had a huge creek. We had a decent sized backyard. We had a little fish pond that our parents made that had tons of fish in it.
And then about not quite a mile, maybe like half a mile, or maybe not even that far, there was a like what we call creek back there.
Mm-hmm.
Like very similar to what's behind us here. I don't know if you can see it that good, but
you probably can't see it too well. But
yeah, there's like a small, about how big do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it. But it's like
30
a river.
feet across?
It's a river. Yeah, that's probably safe to say. About 30 feet across.
30 feet across and not that deep, probably like maybe
probably at the most 9,
feet.
10 feet.
Yeah.
On the deepest.
Yeah. And I remember they would come and stock it every year right before fishing season.
We'd go down and watch them.
Fish hatchery would come and they would just dump a bunch of fish in there.
But
that was always crazy.
It is crazy, but being in that environment and even in this environment,
mm-hmm.
it supplied itself to have so many adventures. So we would create these narratives because me and you and even our friends like Wyatt and Jamark, who came to Sheffield one time, who went to Icy Caves with us when they were really young, and then who's been coming here and lived here for a season. There's just being in these environments has created an atmosphere to take our creativity and turn it into wildlife adventure.
Yeah.
To have the freedom to actually have adventures here in the wilderness. You can't really go outside in an inner city and be like, I'm going to go play in the backyard or I'm going to go into the woods because there's either not any or there's too many people. Your parents don't trust you to be out by yourself. You know what I mean? Or just with your friends. So being in these environments that are very slightly secluded
mm-hmm.
and open and nature and woods and giant rocks, and you create these narratives and you have and there's something about being in nature that reinforces that creativity and it like recharges your batteries. I don't know about you, but even just coming here, it's recharging me in a big way. Not so much earlier today in Sheffield.
Yeah, but here feels
here
good.
it's peaceful.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone.
Oh no,
the caretakers are.
Yeah,
mowing
the caretakers are mowing the lawn off in the distance.
That's okay.
But I guess now that we're back here, we can talk about this a bit.
Yeah.
You talked about just having a place to create narrative. I know this is a camp, and we came as like a family camp.
When we were younger, our parents brought us.
It was Christian. It's a Christian family camp, so we would have services like in the morning and then one service at night. But I remember when we weren't having a service, there wasn't much like activities planned out for us, so we just hung out with friends. That's when we created a lot of the story ideas that we've talked about on this podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the superhero stuff we talked about, where everybody had a power, everybody was their own superhero. We had to come up with suits, we had to come up with powers, we had to come up with that.
Right behind these cameras, there's this big tabernacle building.
Yeah.
And we would be in there during services and writing on pieces of paper and just creating, the Goforth and us, creating these suits and these weapons and coming up with ideas so that when the service was over, we were going to go outside and play out this narrative and be like, I'm the guy who has the laser eyes and who has the blue fire come out of their fingertips because the ice in the palms gets heated up by the middle of the fingers.
Yeah.
And then shoots out blue fire ice out of the tips of my fingers, you know?
And we always, we were always finding ways to entertain each other. I mean, by telling stories, creating our own stories.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, we just would create like myths and legends that aren't true really, but just things that we would just make up for like lure of this camp.
Yeah.
And that's funny. I remember, have we told the box story?
No, but me and you can't tell this story.
No, we're not going to tell it. But there's like a box story that the Goforth family, it kind of has been passed down by generation.
At least of our generation, it's a legend story.
Yes.
It's a legend story.
And we heard about
passed down by the Goforth's grandma.
Camp. because after the night service, we would go in. They would have like snacks out, or we could buy some candy, or like the vending machine, get a little sody pop, and just play in the dark. We probably shouldn't have been playing in the dark so young, but who cares? I mean,
the field is full of fireflies, and you're just a bunch of kids going like, "Hey, come here, little firefly! I'm gonna catch you, little firefly!"
We would catch them, dude. That's awesome.
And you wouldn't try to kill them, but if you did kill one, then you'd be like, okay, by accident, and then you'd like look at the juice that's glowing on your hands.
But yeah,
but we didn't intentionally kill them.
This place
sometimes
if
it
we can get
accident.
a shot of that,
we would jar
need
them.
to. We got to come
try
out
to get
when
some
it gets
firefly
dark.
shots. Just
with the GoPro, maybe shoot some
I don't know if the
fireflies.
GoPro will see it. Maybe your DSLR might see it with a high ISO.
Well, we'll try to get a shot of that if we can.
Yeah.
If so, it's gonna play here. But if not, we're sorry.
Might be too dark. It's
Yeah.
dark out here at night, man.
Dude, but we did so many things to entertain ourselves when we were here. Do you remember? I don't know if he listens to this podcast. Our friend, we haven't talked to him in a couple years because we met him at this camp, DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember way back in the day, he used to do this thing. We thought he was so funny. I mean, it's just a bunch of kids giggling at something stupid.
Yeah.
Mostly probably slapstick comedy. But he would do this thing. We could just call it funny time or something like that. Do you remember this?
I don't remember this.
This was just like, he would just, I don't know, it was almost like a stand-up type thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
He was doing stand-up for us little kids?
Kind of. It was like a slapstick stand-up show thing.
That's funny.
I don't
in the canteen?
Yeah. And
I kind of remember it, but I don't remember any of the narratives that he would display.
no, I don't either. Because, he's not that much older than you are.
Oh, he's like
2
4
years?
or 5 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
He's almost in his 30s, bro.
Yeah, we're getting
He's
old.
an old man.
We might as well go into a retirement home now.
Yeah, might as well. My back already hurts.
Yeah.
But I think
Is there any, like, stories that you remember from this camp, like legends or just myths that we would come up with?
okay, the woods back here behind you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legends from back there. There's a cabin out there that we're not going to go back in because you're allergic to poison ivy.
That is
and
true.
you always ended up getting poison ivy when
I
you
would.
come here. So we're not taking a risk. We're not going in the woods. But there's a cabin back there that is very creepy. I've been in a few times.
Oh, yeah.
But it has got some ghost legends about it.
Yeah. Some Chucky legends.
Some Chucky legends.
Like doll stuff. I'm pretty sure we found a couple dolls back there.
Yeah.
Just weird stuff.
Yeah. I remember there was this one time that a group of us at night were going out, and Tim was with us this year. I don't know if you were there. Perhaps.
I was there at the camp, but I was not with you guys at the time.
God. Well, we wanted to go out at night to this cabin.
Mhm.
And I think Wyatt, Jamark, Tim, a few other people that I can't remember were there. I'm sure Ethan Goforth, their younger brother, was there. And we went out and we went to the back door of this cabin. And we were trying to open it, and we hadn't gone in there yet.
Mhm.
We were just trying to get it open. And all of a sudden, Tim screams and starts taking off running. And we're like, oh my gosh, he's running. Something's happened. He's seen something. So we're chasing after him. And when we catch up to him down the trail, he's like, guys, I looked up, and at the top of the door seal, I saw like these 2 red eyes. And I was like, you did not see 2 red eyes. You probably saw 2 fire
Probably.
lightning bugs, and you thought it was red. And he's like, no, I swear. Well, we went back the next day during the day, and we still couldn't get the door open. But, and we were pushing on it as hard as we could. I mean, as hard as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't super strong, but we weren't little either. I mean, we were giving it all we got. And Seth Clifton, he climbed underneath the thing and found a hole in the bottom of the cabin. And he climbed up into the cabin. And he went over and he just like grabbed it and pulled on it from the inside a little bit. And it came open. And we could not get it open from the outside.
So you think there was something?
I think there's something in there holding it. I think it's a you shall not pass kind of scenario.
There's another legend.
Yeah. What?
Do you remember Big Mama?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, I don't know if you can still see it or not, but there's a creek behind us,
Uh-huh.
and people can fish in it because there's fish.
Yeah.
there's one fish that used to live in here.
We called it Big Mama. It got the name somehow.
Big Mama. It was like, I don't know what you call it. It was like a bottom feeder that just kind of...
It wasn't a catfish.
Not a catfish, but that ate from like the bottom of the water. But this water was clear enough that you could kind of see them.
Yeah.
Kind of see this fish. I mean, to be honest, it probably wasn't that big, but we thought it was big.
Legitimately,
probably
sitting in a little creek like this?
Yeah.
I mean, this was like a lake fish inside of a small creek. I mean, this fish...
Is it that big?
Well, from it was this big. No, I'm just kidding. I think legitimately it was about this big. From nose to tail, it was about this big. And it was probably about that round, which is a big fish for this creek.
Yeah, because it's not that big. But we weren't as big of a fish here. We didn't fish in this as much as our friend DJ did.
Yeah.
Dude, he loved fishing in this.
He loved fishing.
I don't know if he still does or not.
He used to love fishing.
Yeah. But
multiple years.
Yeah.
Multiple years. There would be this talk of like, hey, there's this big fish in the creek at Maranatha. And then it turned into like, hey, I saw the fish come up to the edge of the water and I could see him in the water. It's humongous, man. Yeah. And then someone's like, hey, that Big Mama fish out there. And someone's like, that's a good name. You know what I mean? And then for years it compounded this story of Big Mama that everyone's out there fishing and no one will catch it and they'll get bites and they'll be like, I think it's a big one, but it always got free.
Yeah.
I mean, for years, this happened. This was like a rotating thing for at least 5 years.
Not 5, probably like 3.
No, it was 5.
Okay.
From the moment we heard of the big
sake,
fish
it's 5.
in the creek in Maranatha, it was a solid 5 years.
Well, so we never saw anybody catch it, but
one day we got a picture.
Yeah, our friend DJ, he sent us a picture
outside of camp.
Yeah,
which was against the rules.
He lives closer here. He lives in Pittsburgh, or like this
area.
Yeah, this area
closer to camp than we did,
Pennsylvania. So he could come here once in a while, and he caught it. He got a picture of it. He sent it to us.
He probably sent that around. He's like, well, Big Mama's legend has died with my fishing pole.
He's probably like
holding it up, being like, oh, I'm the one who caught it.
Yeah, but that was a story.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you think, in your mind, coming here today and seeing kind of the area, feeling the breeze, the cool air, smelling the smells, how does it make you feel? Truly.
Nostalgia.
Inspired.
Fresh. It's fresh air.
It's very fresh air.
I can breathe in fresh air. There's not much pollution here.
Not any. I don't think there's any pollution here, man.
There's a lot of good memories, but to be honest, there's a lot of bad memories.
Yeah.
But
like
mostly good.
Ivy.
I won't credit them all to bad, but there's good. There's a lot of stories and a lot of memories here.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes me itching to come back. I mean, we're adults now. We can come back.
Yeah.
So we're wanting, hopefully, to come back next year.
I got to get Mackenzie on board.
Yeah.
She doesn't really know very many people here. So I need to get her on board to come with me. And if she does, we'll come back here during a week of camp. Maybe we'll do a podcast with a couple people if we come up.
That would be crazy.
Like late night in the evening.
Dude,
out
like
here
all
in
night,
the chuck wagon.
All night, like a 6-hour podcast.
Yeah, stay up. Get some patina going on in this podcast.
Definitely.
What do you say we call Wyatt? See if he answers.
One more story.
Okay.
Before we finish, because I have this story.
Gotcha.
I remember. So, when you come here, there's a different places you can stay. There's a place we call like the chapel, and at the end of it, there's kind of like smaller cabins that's like 2 or 3 people can stay in with like just a couple of beds, and then there's a bigger cabin with a lot of beds that usually like a bunch of guys will get together and join in and stay in this one cabin. Then they would have like a girl one, and then they have like family cabins.
Yeah.
But and each of those cabins most of the time have a bathroom in it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's kind of a communal bathroom over on the side towards like where the mess hall is, or like where you go and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, with our friend DJ. We talked about him a little bit on this podcast.
We talked about DJ
It was
more here than we have any other episode.
We should
that's
send
a
him this
gun.
episode. Me, you, and our friend DJ, we went into that bathroom just to wash up before we went to eat lunch one day. I remember this was like right after a service, because the service ended. We were going to go like wash up, wash our hands, and go eat. And we had this little small ball. It wasn't a basketball. It was probably like, almost like, those, you can put them on the top of a door, like a hoop, and you just shoot it, like that kind of.
Yeah.
And it had Spider-Man on it. It was something you brought. I think it was our toy we just brought to camp to play with, just a ball. But it got dirty somehow, like got thrown in the mud. Someone was playing with it. It was all muddy. So I'm like, okay, I'll wash it off. I take it, put it on, or no, you put it under the sink and started rinsing it, just turned it on.
And
mildly.
You got to know, these sinks are, for some reason, had a lot of pressure. You got to turn it slightly, otherwise you're just going to just shoot out.
But I thought it would be funny, just as a joke. I'm like, oh, you're going to wash it? And I turned it up all the way. So I'm just being a annoying little cuss. And it's hitting the ball and splashing everywhere.
Like you do with a spoon when you put it under the sink. And it just whoop, just flies everywhere, man.
It's going everywhere, and it's on full blast. Ton of water pressure is coming out, ton of water.
Yeah.
And it's going everywhere in the bathroom. I remember we started freaking out.
Because we're getting soaked.
We were getting soaked.
You can't get near the sink without getting soaked. And for some reason, Joshua just did this thing that completely ruined our ability to go have some lunch.
Well, we are probably all just like, you guys didn't want to get wet, and I'm giggling like a little cuss. And then we're all running, scattering. Nobody wants to go turn off the water.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't on that long, but I remember clearly making such a noise that people were looking in the bathroom, kind of like peeking their head and like, what the heck, is
our
someone dying
voices
in
hadn't
there?
dropped yet, so it's just a lot of
yeah,
just the highest of pitches.
And people are like looking in and being like, is someone dying in there? Are they a little too constipated? But
okay, listen, we got the sink off.
We did.
We got the ball clean.
We had to mop the
but
crap
there was
out of the
a
thing.
solid 2 to 3 inches of water all over the ground.
Yeah.
In the bathroom.
So, before we got to eat lunch,
our dad
got us 3. He took us out back, gave
his
us
2
all,
sons and DJ.
got us
He's
all
like,
a mop.
Here's a mop, boys.
Clean it up.
Clean it up. You made a mess. And me and DJ are just like, frickin' Joshua.
Yeah, you guys
Why
are so
the
mad
crap
at me.
would you? Yeah, I mean, it kind of put a damper on you for the rest of the day.
To be honest, because DJ's older than you, and then you're 2 years older than me, I was kind of like, especially at that time, just the annoying cuss, the kind of the younger guy that just thinks things are funny and is going to giggle at it to be annoying. So we had to mop it up before we got to eat, and then we ate, but so we wouldn't miss lunch, we had to go to lunch wet, soaking wet.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if this is true, but in my head, I think we were having like grilled cheese and soup that day. And I just remember going up to the line, and the pastor that preached that week, he just saw it and he's like, boys, why are you all wet? And we just had to tell him, be like,
well, we flooded the bathroom.
Yeah, we just got a little wet somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's us flooding the bathroom story. I hope that you enjoyed it. But let's call Wyatt. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see what he thinks of 100 episodes. Let's see if he remembers Icy Caves, and let's just see what he says about while we finish off this podcast. Let's hope he answers, and let's hope I have reception.
Yeah, we're like right at 40 minutes right now. A little.
Let's see.
4.
Here we go.
Hello.
Hey Wyatt, you're on the 100th episode.
Hey,
You're on the 100th episode of the Wiseworks podcast. Can you hear me all right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm surprised we got reception.
Yeah.
It might not last very long, but I wanted to just go ahead.
I've got pretty good reception over here. I came over to a spot where I would get really good bars so that we'd have less chance to lose the connection.
Good, good. All right. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts about just 100 episodes, man. And just seeing me and Joshua start this thing and then hopping on board a few months back with the midnight special and even concepting for the video podcast and whatnot. What have been your thoughts about this, man?
Yeah, well,
how do you feel about it? You're a part of this.
At this point, you've kind of, we've done the midnight special Friday. That came out Friday.
Yeah.
And that one we're gonna react to some videos.
Yeah. Well, we have reacted, but yeah, Wyatt, tell us some of your thoughts.
Yeah. It's been fun. It's really been just a good time. We've really, I've at least really been able to enjoy just talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Number one, because I always love talking to you guys. But also being able to express some of the things that we think about and we talk about amongst each other.
Mm-hmm.
But have a platform to be able to, for other people to listen and, perhaps to give other people ideas and allow other people to search their creativity and their mind, for ideas that make them passionate.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about inspiration, and we were telling some stories from Maranatha since we're out here sitting outside at Maranatha. We wanted to hear your thoughts a little bit about just kind of how inspiration and being here at camp and being young guys being raised together. I mean, we're literally sitting a few feet away from our first memories of seeing each other, like right out by the creek. I'm literally looking at where we kind of met each other, really. And so what have been your thoughts about inspiration for creativity, for stories, for superheroes and drawing in the service and all that stuff? What has been some of your thoughts about here at camp with us actually being here at camp,
Yeah.
Well, I think the young camp me, before we lived there,
mm-hmm.
All the ideas and everything, that was it was a free time to sort of explore some of those ideas that we had. But when we got older and we actually moved up there and lived there at the camp,
mm-hmm.
I was 12 years old, so we were getting into, books and shows and movies and stuff, which, those go a long way for developing the imagination. Just seeing, the works of other people help you get a grasp on creating your own ideas. But I think one of the main things was just the environment of the camp.
Yeah.
I mean, you go into those woods and it's like walking into a dark forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking into, something where if you turn the corner around one of those giant rocks, those moss-covered rocks in that forest of ferns and roots, you might see, a gnome or a fairy or something. And it just
or Chucky.
Or,
kind of vibe,
Yeah.
That really gave us inspiration for just all sorts of different things, coming up with stuff, just being in the woods.
Yeah, and it feeds your mind a bit,
Let's have him talk about his experience with some of the stories we talked about, like Big Mama. Do you remember Big Mama, the fish?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me and Joshua kind of told the story of the process of like multiple years of seeing this fish and whatnot, and then it being finally caught. But during that process, what was your kind of thoughts about it? Did you ever see the fish with your own two eyes?
Well, number one, it's very surprising that she lasted that long, because what happens is the fish and game department come down with a load of fish,
mm-hmm.
and they dump the trout into the creek.
Yeah.
And then the first day of fishing season, people come in and basically fish all of the trout out
mm-hmm.
of the creek.
So it was a trout, right? Was she a trout?
Yeah, she was a what is it?
A trout?
Yeah, she was a Palomino trout, which is a large, yellow trout.
Okay.
And so it was very surprising that she lasted as many years as she did because the fishermen come in and they fish almost all the fish out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool to see. I tried to get her myself a couple times, and she would taunt you, right?
Yeah.
In her fishy sort of way. She would come up to the surface and sit by the surface and just sunbathe or wait for bugs or whatever.
Yeah. I saw her.
And,
I saw her with my own eyes.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like after DJ caught her?
No. While she was alive, she came up to the surface right near the bank, and I looked down at my foot after sitting, like having a conversation with someone. I looked down at the water right next to my foot, and she was right there. And I looked at her for a second, and then she took off.
Oh, I've living there. We saw her a bunch.
Wait, so she was caught while you lived here?
Was she caught when we lived there, Ethan? Yeah, we saw her several times.
Oh wow.
You could just go out onto the rock and see her sunbathing. Often, sometimes alone. Sometimes there'd be some of the sucker fish, which are just as big, crowding around. Sometimes with other trout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a couple times where she looked like she wanted to hit the lure or the bait, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
She's kind of like the white whale, our white whale.
The Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, you remember Icy Caves?
Yeah.
So we went up there today.
Yep.
But I wanted to tell you, I mean, I won't re-explain the story, but pretty much we were out there. We decided not to film anything out there, but we almost got caught by a dude.
Who owns the property. So
it was a close call. But I wanted to tell you, I mean, we saw it. It was pretty cool to see it again. But what was your initial reaction? You were really young. Do you remember much from when you saw Icy Caves from yourself?
Oh man, I remember so much of Icy Caves. I remember. I don't remember like the ride there or the ride backers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that you don't remember as a kid. I remember walking out into the woods, and then did we have a guide?
I don't remember.
I think because I remember
Ethan's here with me. Ethan says we had a guide.
Okay, we might have.
Yeah, we might have.
I remember there being a guide, somewhat, but I remember going into the cave, and it was cool because it was a hot day. Mm-hmm. It was a warm day, and we went out there and go into the cave, and these the caves aren't like hidden or anything, and it's so strange because I've been in caves before and they're cold, but these caves were just ice.
Yeah,
all on the inside.
Yeah, we went during a cold part of the year with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it was like warm enough outside.
Chilly.
It was what?
It was pretty chilly.
August?
Yeah, I think so.
Or September? Yeah. So it was just super cool seeing just the massive walls of ice on the inside of there.
Yeah.
And again, that's another one of those enchanting places.
Yeah.
You know?
There wasn't any ice or anything we saw today.
Mm.
But
we didn't see all of it.
We didn't see all of it. I mean, we were at a very specific spot of it. We were there for we got some shots of it on video. But we were there for probably about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so.
A little bit long.
Right.
Yeah, maybe 30.
Somewhere around that. Hey, Wyatt, I wanted to also ask, what do you hope, since this is the 100th episode, what do you hope to see with the podcast in the future, and what are your hopes and dreams and ideas and goals that you'd just like to share with the audience?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess number one,
Did we lose him?
We might have lost him.
Oh, no.
Well, that's a bad spot to
Do you
leave
have
him.
his phone number?
I do.
Call him, because I think my phone died. Call him back quick.
Sorry for the interruption.
It's okay. We knew something was gonna happen at some point.
Why,
I'm glad you have reception too. Hey, sorry, man, my phone died, but we're still rolling. Hey, start back over what you said you hope to see for the podcast in the future.
Yeah.
I definitely hope that we'll gain some following, right?
Got to get those
Definitely,
1,000
it's not
subscribers.
just for us. I mean, as much as we love doing it, it's not just for us to go and shoot the breeze, right?
Yeah.
It's to entertain people.
Exactly.
And to entertain people, we have to have people to entertain.
Yeah.
So I hope to gain a following. I hope to gain people that are, want to explore the creativity along with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to, that the podcast is a stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
I want it definitely to be sort of a recording of what's going on kind of behind the scenes as the company grows. But, I want it to be part of the growth.
Yeah.
Right? The first step into creating other content, be it videos for YouTube or making short films or making long form films.
Mm-hmm.
Just to so we can enjoy doing that in the future.
Yeah, that's great, man. Do you think you could put it any better? Josh, I don't think I can.
Not really, but I mean, we've talked about this in the past. What our vision is for Wise Works.
Yeah.
We started off making films, short films. We want to eventually create longer form films for a lot more bigger audience.
Yeah.
This podcast is stepping stone, but it's also our thoughts, some stories maybe we haven't created. It helps people be more creative. Maybe some filmmakers can come here, learn something that we've learned over the years that we made the mistake. We can pass some knowledge off to them.
Yeah.
And we can also give them a creative spark to kind of create their own thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we want the podcast to be, but we don't want WiseWorks to just be the podcast. We want it to be a whole facet of things.
But since this is the 100th episode,
Yes.
we are celebrating the podcast today. Between what Joshua said and what Wyatt said, I cannot give the vision in any better or clearer way.
Yes.
Wyatt, do you have any final words? I think we're about to wrap this up. We're close to what is it? Almost an hour now.
Yeah, we're about at an hour.
We're about at an hour long. So this is the longest video one we've done.
We have.
So Wyatt, real quick, any final words or thoughts before we go?
I'll just say real quick, number one, you guys need to be safe driving home.
We will.
I'm glad you're getting to enjoy the camp at least for a day or so.
Yeah, dude, we got a tent out. Me and Joshua, our batteries are already feeling recharged, man. I mean, it's gorgeous here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You didn't want to stay in a cabin?
Nah, we want to sleep outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, I got that. That's what I did last time I was there.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Yeah. But, just real quick, I've got some fun ideas and plans I'd like to do in future podcasts.
Okay.
I want to get Lydia on the podcast.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your little sister, for people who don't know.
Younger sister.
Yeah,
Younger
she's
sister.
a very
Little
creative
bit.
person, very creative personality.
Yes.
She's got her own kind of music and art type thing.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Ethan, and I know he'd like to get on the podcast at some point.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
Ethan better tread lightly, because if he gets on the podcast, I am going to bust his balls a little.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of things.
You got a lot of things.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I got a few things I'd like to say to Ethan in a public space.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
But definitely, we'll have him on. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll have some fun stories with Ethan.
Yeah, he'll probably remember some stuff we didn't.
Oh, he'll remember a lot of stuff. He's a lot different now than he was when he was little.
Yeah, I know.
But we'll save that kind of stuff for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it, Wyatt. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the ending. But how about I don't know. I'm gonna plug everything.
Yeah.
And then Joshua and Wyatt, you figure out what you want to say to finish off while I plug stuff.
Before you plug everything and we kind of end it.
Yeah.
Since we're at 100 episodes, I have one thing. Can we reward ourselves with one thing?
What?
I think we should both be able to buy a pack of new white shirts and black shirts to reward ourselves for having 100 episodes.
Yes.
So we don't have to wear the same black and white shirts
These
again.
got holes. So yeah, I'll tell you what. I said I was going to show my nipples.
Wait, what? He's going to show his nipples.
Just for the ending while I plug stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching the Wise Works podcast, listening to it if you're on Spotify.
Yeah.
If you do not know about us, we are at 100 episodes and climbing. We really appreciate you listening or watching this one. So we encourage you to go over to Spotify or YouTube, watch or listen, whichever you prefer, and check out our audio-only midnight special that is on the Spotify channel every single week on Friday nights at 10.
Wise Works Podcast.
Wise Works Podcast on Spotify.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Finish it off, guys.
Well, it's been 100 episodes, and I hope this will not be our last. I'm not going to say I hope. This will not be our last. Even if we're in prison.
5,000.
Yep, 5,000.
5,000 more.
Even if we're in prison, we're going to do a prison episode. Even if one of us dies, we're going to do an episode at the funeral.
Yep.
And hopefully John Mark comes on eventually again. Because
Jamark's like the podcast bandit. We need to end this. I already plugged everything.
Okay. Okay.
All right, bye.
See ya.